He walked into the hotel with quiet confidence. But that night, the world would show him how cruel judgment can be. The automatic glass doors of the Grand Crest Hotel slid open with a soft hum. The golden chandeliers above threw shimmering light across the marble floor, reflecting the wealth and perfection of Manhattan's most exclusive address. Marcus Bennett, dressed in a neat navy suit, stepped in, pulling his small suitcase behind him. His eyes carried a calm confidence, the kind that comes from years of hard work. This wasn't his first luxury hotel, but this meeting was special. If tonight went right, his small tech startup would finally secure its biggest investor deal. He smiled politely at the receptionist as he approached the front desk. "Good evening. I have a reservation under Bennett, Marcus." The woman behind the desk didn't look up right away. Her tone was clipped, cold. "Are you making a delivery, sir?" Marcus paused. "No, I'm checking in." Only then did she glance up, eyes scanning him from head to toe. His dark skin, simple briefcase, and the absence of any luxury brand. Her lips tightened. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, tapping the keyboard with exaggerated slowness. "We're fully booked for the evening." Marcus frowned slightly. "That can't be. I booked 2 weeks ago." "You can check again. Marcus Bennett." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "Sir, I said we're full. Maybe you're at the wrong hotel?" From a nearby lounge sofa, 2 well-dressed white guests, a man and woman, holding champagne glasses, began whispering and chuckling. "Guess he took a wrong turn," the man muttered. The woman smirked. "Drivers these days think they belong everywhere." Marcus heard every word. His chest tightened, but he said nothing. Instead, he kept his composure. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I have a confirmation email. May I show it?" The receptionist forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sir, please don't make a scene." Behind them, a man in his 70s sat alone, reading a newspaper. His silver hair and tailored suit suggested old money. He glanced up for a moment, eyes narrowing slightly as he watched the interaction, then returned to his paper. Marcus handed over his phone, the booking confirmation glowing on the screen. She barely looked at it. "I'm sorry, but this isn't valid. Maybe you used a discount website. We don't honor those here." The guests nearby laughed louder. Marcus took a slow breath, trying to hold back the sting of humiliation. "This is from your official website." The receptionist shrugged, her voice icy. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. You're holding up the line." For a moment, Marcus stood frozen. The laughter behind him, the stares from other guests, the humiliation, it all pressed on him like a weight. Then quietly he said, "Thank you," picked up his suitcase and stepped aside. The older man folded his newspaper and set it down. His eyes followed Marcus as he walked toward the hotel lounge. Something in that calm walk, the silence, the restraint told him this man was different. He didn't speak yet. He just watched. Because sometimes power doesn't reveal itself through words. It watches and waits. The clock above the chandelier ticked softly, its gold edges glinting under the warm light. Marcus sat down in the corner of the lobby, his hands pressed against his knees to stop them from shaking. He wasn't angry, just tired of pretending that insults didn't hurt. From behind the reception counter, the white receptionist whispered to her coworker, her voice a dagger wrapped in sugar. "He probably wandered in here by mistake." "Happens sometimes." Her coworker giggled, pretending to check the screen. Marcus heard it, every word, but he didn't move. Across the room, The older man with silver hair, still half hidden behind a newspaper, lowered it slightly. His name, Edward Langford. To most of the world, he was a quiet billionaire who built half the luxury hotels in the city. To the staff, just another old guest in a tailored suit. Edward's sharp gray eyes studied Marcus, not with pity, but with curiosity. The young man's posture told a story. Educated, disciplined, and composed even when the world tried to push him down. Edward had met thousands of people who smiled at him for his wealth, but few who held their dignity in silence. Marcus's phone buzzed. A message from Daniel Cole. "Running 15 mins late. Don't start without me." Marcus smiled faintly, typing back, "All good, I'll wait." As he placed the phone down, the receptionist called over a bellhop. "Jason, could you ask that man to wait outside? He's making the guests uncomfortable." Jason froze. "Outside? But he's—" she snapped. "Just do it." The young bellhop hesitated, then approached Marcus awkwardly. "Sir, I'm really sorry, but the manager asked if you could wait in the outer lounge. Just for a while." Marcus blinked, stunned. "Outside? Did I do something wrong?" Jason's eyes dropped. "No, sir. I think they just— it's policy sometimes." "Policy," Marcus repeated quietly. "Right." He stood up slowly, adjusting his suit jacket. He didn't shout. He didn't defend himself. He simply picked up his suitcase. And that silence, that grace, was what made everyone stop talking. A woman at the bar whispered, "Maybe he really doesn't belong here." Another man chuckled, "You can't buy class." Then a new voice echoed through the lobby. Calm, deep, authoritative. The kind that instantly commanded attention. "Sit down, young man." The sound cut through the laughter. Every head turned. It was Edward Langford. The newspaper now folded neatly on the table beside him. He rose from his seat, cane in hand, eyes fixed on the receptionist. "Excuse me," she asked nervously. Edward's tone stayed even. "I said he will not wait outside. He will sit here as my guest." The air in the room thickened. The bellhop froze mid-step. The whispering guests fell silent. Edward walked closer, his polished shoes echoing across the marble. "Tell me, young lady," he said, eyes never leaving hers, "do you treat all your guests like this, or only the ones with darker skin?" The color drained from her face. "Sir, I didn't mean—" Edward interrupted softly. "No, you didn't mean to. That's what makes it worse." He turned to Marcus, voice low but firm. "You said you have a meeting tonight, yes?" Marcus nodded slowly. "With Daniel Cole, he's an investor." A faint, knowing smile formed on Edward's lips. "Daniel Cole, you say?" He looked toward the receptionist one last time. "You might want to remember that name. It's about to cost you your job." The lobby went dead silent. Marcus didn't know it yet. But that night, everything in his life was about to change. The tension in the air could have been sliced with a knife. The receptionist stood frozen, mouth slightly open. The guests stared in disbelief. The man they'd mocked minutes ago was suddenly being defended by someone whose presence radiated authority. Edward Langford turned toward Marcus. "Son, may I see that email confirmation you mentioned earlier?" Marcus hesitated, then handed him the phone. Edward glanced at it once, then smiled faintly. "Just as I thought. Booked directly through our website." He faced the receptionist again. "Your system isn't full. There are 7 unoccupied suites tonight. Suite 405, for instance. The penthouse." "Why lie?" Her voice trembled. "Sir, I didn't—" "You didn't check," Edward said sharply. "You judged?" A collective gasp rippled through the lobby. The laughing couple at the bar quickly turned away, pretending not to exist. Edward gestured to the bellhop. Jason, please escort Mr. Bennett to the penthouse suite. Complimentary stay. Effective immediately. Jason's eyes widened. Yes, sir. Marcus blinked, confused. Wait, complimentary? Sir, that's not necessary. Edward's voice softened. You earned it. Not for who you are, but for what you didn't do. Marcus frowned slightly. What do you mean? Edward smiled. You didn't lower yourself. That's something money can't buy. The crowd remained frozen, watching as the billionaire's words sliced through the silence. Then Edward spoke again, slowly, deliberately, so every soul in the lobby could hear. My name is Edward Langford. I own this hotel, and 50 others like it across this country. The color drained from every face in the room. The receptionist's knees nearly buckled. Edward turned toward Marcus. Daniel Cole, the man you're meeting tonight, works for me, and I've just decided the deal you came for. It's approved. Marcus's eyes widened. Approved? Edward nodded. If you can stand with dignity when the world tries to break you, you deserve far more than an investment. He looked around at the silent, shamed faces. The next time any of you think you can judge someone by their appearance, remember this night. The receptionist whispered. I'm so sorry, sir. Edward didn't look at her. Apologies don't fix judgment. Change does. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, leading into the top-floor penthouse. Golden light poured through the wide glass windows overlooking the city skyline. For Marcus, it felt like stepping into another world, one that people like him rarely saw, let alone entered. Edward Langford walked ahead, slow and steady, his cane tapping lightly on the marble floor. He stopped near the large glass table, where a decanter of wine and 2 glasses sat waiting. He turned and gestured for Marcus to sit. Marcus hesitated. Sir, I don't really know what to say. Everything happened so fast. Edward smiled gently. Then say nothing. Just breathe. You've had a hard evening. Marcus took a deep breath, the tension slowly leaving his shoulders. For the first time that night, he felt seen. Not as someone being judged, but as someone being understood. Edward poured 2 glasses of water, sliding one toward him. You know, he began, I've spent 40 years building hotels like this. But every few months I come down here pretending to be just another guest. No one knows who I am. Marcus looked surprised. You test your staff? Edward nodded. Yes, but not to catch mistakes, to reveal character. Tonight I saw a lot of it. In you and in them. He walked to the window, staring at the city lights. Do you know what I used to do before all this? Marcus shook his head. I cleaned tables, Edward said quietly. At a hotel not too different from this one. I was called names, ignored, and once told that men like me would never wear a suit that wasn't borrowed. I promised myself that if I ever owned a hotel, no one under my roof would feel that way. His voice grew softer, almost regretful. But clearly I failed to teach that lesson to everyone. Marcus listened silently. His eyes glistened. Sir, you didn't fail. You just reminded them tonight. The hard way. Edward turned, smiling faintly. Maybe. But you reminded me, too, that dignity doesn't need power to exist. It creates its own. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a sleek folder, and placed it on the table. Inside, printed papers bore Marcus's company name. Bennett Innovations. Edward said, This is your contract. You'll have your investment. And, if you'll accept it, I'd like you to oversee our new digital expansion project. Full management authority. Marcus froze. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance, Edward replied, because the world needs leaders who stay calm when it burns around them. For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. Then he extended his hand. Thank you, sir. Not just for the opportunity, but for showing me that grace still matters. Edward shook his hand firmly. Don't thank me. Just promise me one thing. Marcus nodded. Anything. Edward smiled. When it's your turn to stand in power, watch quietly too. Because sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom. It just needs someone brave enough to see the truth. They stood together at the window. Two men from different worlds, united by a single lesson. Respect is the real currency of power. Down in the lobby, whispers spread like wildfire. The story would soon reach every corner of the city. But only a few knew the real truth, that one quiet act of dignity had changed everything. As the night lights shimmered across the skyline, Marcus whispered to himself, no one knew the billionaire was watching. But maybe that's why it mattered. Never judge anyone by appearance. The person you look down on today might be the one testing your humanity tomorrow. If this story touched your heart, drop a AI turtikindu in the comments and tell us what you learned. Subscribe now for more emotional stories that prove one thing. Kindness never goes unnoticed.